What is up? This is Alex from Double Move Sports, and we made it. We are talking week 1 today, getting straight into quarterback start sits for this first matchup of the fantasy football season. Before I do jump into it, be sure to help us out, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and if you want more specific help with your start sit decisions, with trades, with things going on in your league, join our Discord in the link down below. That's where Stef and I hang out. We talk with you guys, answer questions. We've got a great community in there as well. And it's been an absolute blast. So it's free to join. Hit that link. But without further ado, let's talk week 1 quarterbacks. And we'll start it out with the Thursday night game. It's the Dallas Cowboys at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The over-under in this game is 52. And I think this should be an absolute blast to watch. Not only because it is the first game of the year, but there should be some points scored. 52 is one of the higher over-unders of the week. And the start sits here are easy. Dak is a must-start on the Dallas side of the ball. I'm not too worried about the injury. I think he's going to come out 100% healthy and be absolutely slinging it in this game. So that's an easy must-start. And then for Tampa Bay, Tom Brady, he's a must-start as well. The Cowboys' defense should be rough again this season. I know they picked up Micah Parsons. I think they will be improved compared to where they were in 2020, but I'm not expecting some absolute 180 for this unit. And Brady, with those weapons in Tampa, is someone you should be locking into your lineup with confidence in week 1. So really easy there in that Cowboys-Bucs game. But let's move on to one that's a little bit more challenging, the Seahawks at the Indianapolis Colts. And the over-under in this game is 49.5. So we'll start out easy on the Seahawks side. You're starting Russell Wilson in this game. Honestly, if Carson Wentz plays, I'm more excited about Russell Wilson because I do think it'll be a more competitive game. But he's someone you have to roll out there regardless, just because of, 1, where you probably drafted him, and 2, because of his skill set and his touchdown efficiency with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett out there. But the more difficult decision, I think it's difficult because I'm a Colts fan, is Carson Wentz if he is healthy in this game. If he's not healthy, if it's Jacob Eason, easy sit. But with Wentz, I do think he's a sit in this game. You likely were able to draft a better quarterback in your league that's going to have a better matchup. There's some good streaming options we'll get into later on as well. But I think Wentz could have a good game here. We don't really know what we're going to get. But I would much rather wait and see what I have in Carson Wentz rather than rolling him out there in week 1. I do think if you're in a 2-quarterback or a super flex league, he gets a lot more interesting. But I'm trying to sit Wentz, if at all possible, in this game. So Carson Wentz is a sit for week 1. Now let's move on to the Eagles and the Falcons. This game's in Atlanta. The over-under is 48. So we're talking about Jalen Hurts and Matt Ryan in this one. And Jalen Hurts is a start. I don't really know what Jalen Hurts is going to give us from an NFL quarterback perspective in 2021. But I do know as long as he's out there as the starter for the Eagles, he's going to be valuable in fantasy football. The Falcons do not have a good defense. So Jalen Hurts should be able to put up some fantasy points because he does give you that baseline with his legs. Even if he struggles through the air, he's got Devontae Smith there as a rookie. I think he's someone you can start with confidence in this matchup. And Matt Ryan, I think you can start as well. The Eagles don't have a great defense. The over-under is 48. I would actually like to see it a little bit higher. If I was betting on this game, I'd probably take the over. But Matt Ryan is someone you're picking up late in drafts. He might be on the waiver wire in some leagues. And if you're in a pinch week 1 or you got some tough matchups, I don't mind rolling Matt Ryan out there with Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts as his weapons. So Jalen Hurts and Matt Ryan are starts for me in this game. Next on the docket is the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Buffalo Bills. Over-under in this one is 49. I don't need to talk about Josh Allen. He's a must-start. I know this is a tough matchup against Pittsburgh, but Josh Allen is someone you're starting every single week, no matter what. So he is a start. And I think you start Big Ben as well. Buffalo should put up points in this game, and I think Big Ben is going to have to really rely on his arm to keep the Steelers competitive in this one. So with Najee Harris now a running back, hopefully a more two-dimensional game on offense, I think Big Ben should be a fine start against the Buffalo Bills. I'm really good with starting those Pittsburgh receivers as well, but I'll get into that in my start-sit receiver video later in the week. So Josh Allen and Big Ben are starts in this game. There's really a lot of guys at the quarterback spot that I'm willing to start here in week 1, but let's move down the board. We got many more matchups to get through to the Vikings and the Bengals. The over-under in this one is 48 points, and we'll start with Kirk Cousins. I think he's a start. The Bengals defense should be weak. The Vikings should absolutely dominate this game. The biggest concern for Kirk Cousins this week is that they dominate early on the ground with Dalvin Cook. and they don't need Kirk Cousins to throw the ball a lot. But I do think you can start him. He is a streaming option for me in week 1. I think you certainly could do worse if you're deciding between, Kirk Cousins and Joe Burrow on the other side of the ball. Cousins is the pick because Joe Burrow is a sit for me in this game. The Vikings defense should be much improved in 2021. I'm hopeful that Joe Burrow comes out and plays great, but it's just a lot of risk to take in week 1 for Joe Burrow with young wide receivers coming off of that injury to light the Vikings defense up in this matchup. So Joe Burrow's a sit. If I drafted him, I'm wanting to wait 1 week before I throw him out there and see what I have. So next up is the 49ers and the Lions. The over-under in this one is 45. I expect this to be a blowout in favor of the 49ers, but we'll see. Jared Goff's definitely a sit for me. There might be some matchups this season where Jared Goff becomes a streamable option. It's definitely not in this one against the 49ers. And then on the Niners side of the ball, with Jimmy G and Trey Lance, they're both a sit for me right now, even in a decent matchup. Just because if it's Jimmy G, I'm not that confident that he's going to put up points as a fantasy quarterback. And you could have Trey Lance coming in the red zone in some of these additional possessions like we saw in the preseason if he is active with that finger injury that he's dealing with. So Jimmy G and Trey Lance are sits for me. Now, if Kyle Shanahan comes out and names Trey Lance his starter in an unexpected move before this game, I'm willing to roll Trey Lance out there if I'm hurting at quarterback because I think he could absolutely light up the Lions. But I'm really trying to wait and see with this 49ers quarterback situation. So if at all possible, I'm sitting all quarterbacks in this game. The next one's a fun one. You got the Cardinals at the Titans, over under of 52 points. So we're expecting points to be scored in this game. Kyler Murray, won't spend too much time on it. He's a must start every single week. And Ryan Tannehill is my start of the week for week 1 against the Arizona Cardinals. There should be points scored in this game. I think the Titans are going to have to throw the ball in this one. Ryan Tannehill now has Julio Jones to work with alongside of A.J. Brown. He does give you a floor with his legs that people don't really think about with Ryan Tannehill. So Tannehill, I think, is going to come out and have a fantastic game. I expect it to be competitive. And at home, Ryan Tannehill is going to be a great option in week 1 against the Arizona Cardinals. So he is my start of the week, the DMS stamp of approval on Tana Thrill in week 1. But let's move on to a much tougher decision with the Chargers at the Washington football team. The over-under is 44.5, so a really low over-under in this game. The Chargers defense should be much improved this season now that they're getting healthy. Just about everyone went down on that side of the ball in 2020. And with that being the case, with a low over-under, Ryan Fitzpatrick is a sit for me. I know we love Fitzmagic, but this isn't the matchup where I'm wanting to roll him out there in week 1. If you punted the quarterback spot, there are other options you can pick up and play. There's guys we've talked about, Kirk Cousins, Big Ben, Matt Ryan. See if you can get your hands on one of those guys to start week 1. And then on the Chargers side of the ball, it's Justin Herbert against a really good Washington football team defense. I still think he is a start this week, so I'm officially labeling him a start. He's someone I'm playing over some of those streaming options, Kirk Cousins, Big Ben. I'm playing him over all those guys. It's Justin Herbert. You can't get too scared of the defense, but I don't think he is like in this Kyler Murray, Josh Allen level range yet for me. So if you have another good option on your team, if you have, for example, Ryan Tannehill, my start of the week against the Cardinals, I would rather play Tannehill over Justin Herbert in week 1 based on that matchup. So Herbert is a start, but I don't think he's necessarily a must start depending on the other options you have on your roster. So now we'll move on to the Jets at the Carolina Panthers. Over-under is 45 in this game. Two teams that we expect to be towards the bottom of the league, but this is going to be exciting. We get to see Sam Darnold in Carolina. We get to see what Zach Wilson can do with the New York Jets. Both guys are sits for me in this game. I think both of these guys are wait and sees. I'm not even interested in stashing them on my bench right now, but if they come out and light it up week 1, I'm definitely interested in picking them up off the waiver wire and stashing them on my bench to see what I have. So both are going to be sits in week 1, but keep an eye on this game. It's going to be a fun one to watch, which I never thought I'd say about the Jets and the Panthers, but here we are. I think I'm just excited for football, but let's get into the Jaguars at the Texans. Now, I don't know if this one will be fun to watch. The over-under is 44.5. We do get to see Trevor Lawrence, which should be really exciting. If possible, I would sit Trevor Lawrence. I'm going to label him as a sit here, but I definitely think he could have a really, really good game against an awful Houston defense. I just don't know how much he's going to need to throw it in this game. If he comes out hot in the first half, I wouldn't be surprised to see him put up 2-3 touchdowns. but the volume should be tapered back as this game goes along because I do think Jacksonville wins this one, even though it is in Houston. So I'm going to label Trevor Lawrence as a sit here, but I still do think he could have a good game. If he's my only option, I'm fine with it. But if I did take Lawrence late in my draft, surely I have one of these other veteran streaming options I could put out there in week one. And for the Texans, I'm not getting cute here. Tyrod Taylor's a sit. I'm not interested in starting him in this game. He just doesn't give me the upside that I think I want coming out the gates in week one. So we're almost through this list. A couple more matchups to get into. Next is the Browns at the Chiefs. The over-under is 53 points, the highest of the week. Patrick Mahomes, he's a must-start every single week. Don't need to talk about him, even against a good Browns defense. And Baker Mayfield is a start. It is a high over-under. The Chiefs are going to put up points. And this Browns football team, I've been fading in terms of their passing game in fantasy football on the season. I love Nick Chubb. I think Kareem Hunt's fine, but Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, Baker, I haven't been too interested in those guys in season-long fantasy, but in this game, I think they're all starts. And I'll get into the receivers later on in another video, but Baker is going to be playing from behind most likely in this game. They're going to have to get away from this Browns run-the-ball identity a little bit, and I think he's going to be able to get it done for fantasy. So Baker is a start for me in this game. And next, we have the Dolphins at the Patriots, an over-under of 43.5. Very, very low. I was shocked to see that it wasn't the lowest over-under of the week. So for me, both Tua Tagovailoa and Mac Jones are sits in this game. Mac comes out against a really strong defense in Miami, his first start. He did get the job from Cam. It's going to be fun to watch him play. But I'm not expecting him to go for some 350-yard, 3-touchdown game in this one. I'm hoping he shows some efficiency. He makes good decisions with the football and doesn't turn the ball over. But for fantasy, I'm not going to start him in this game in his first start. And then for Tua, me, along with everybody else, is excited to see what Tua can do this season. But against a strong Patriots defense in week one without Will Fuller, I'm going to pass on that one for now and see what I've got. He's probably someone that was drafted in your league. If you drafted him, I'm fine keeping him on your bench for the time being. Now we have the Packers at the Saints. This one's actually being played at a neutral location. It's considered a Saints home game, but because of the hurricane, it did get moved. So the over-under is 50 points. Aaron Rodgers is a start. The Saints defense is strong, but that's not going to scare me off of Aaron Rodgers. The more interesting guy here is Jameis Winston for the New Orleans Saints. This might be a hot take, but I'm willing to start Jameis in this game. The Packers are a strong offense. They do have Jair Alexander on the defensive side of the ball, but their defense hasn't been the strongest unit. They weren't the strongest unit last season. They didn't make any huge, massive upgrades that really catch my eye going into this season. I think there's potential. They get a little bit better in the secondary. You know, Kevin King was really weak last year, so we'll see what happens this season. But outside of Jair Alexander, I think there's ways to beat the Packers. So I think Jameis Winston could come out in this game. The Packers are going to be putting up points, so Jameis is going to have to put up points. The challenge here is the receiving options. You know, with Michael Thomas out, we're looking at Marquez Callaway, Traquan Smith, Alvin Kamara, Adam Troutman could be banged up. So that is the big red flag with Jameis Winston. But even if he doesn't have the most efficient game, I think we could see enough for him to be a start in fantasy football. So I'm going to label Jameis Winston as a start. He is probably like the last guy considered a start for me this week, with Trevor Lawrence being the best of the sit group, Jameis being the worst of the start group. But if I was in a pinch, if I was your quarterback in my draft and ended up picking up one in the last round, I would much rather start a guy like Jameis Winston in this game than a Ryan Fitzpatrick against the LA Chargers. So now we'll get into the Broncos at the New York Giants. The lowest over-under of the week at 42 points. With that being the case, I'm sitting both of the quarterbacks in this one. Danny Dimes has shown us upside in the past, but in this game with Kenny Golladay coming back from an injury, Saquon coming back from an injury, I'm just not willing to start him against a very, very strong Denver Broncos defense, one of the best in the league. So he is a sit for me. Hopefully Daniel Jones can become a viable streamer later in the year, but it's not going to be here. And then Teddy for the Broncos, I'm sitting him as well. I mean, the Giants defense definitely doesn't scare me. I think Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams could be interesting options this week against a weak Giants defense. But with a low over-under, with Teddy not being this guy that's going to air it out and throw for 4 or 5 touchdowns, he's really capping your upside. So until we see that Teddy Bridgewater, I'm going to sit him in this matchup. And I am picking the Broncos to win this one in New York. On Sunday Night Football, we've got the Bears at the Rams. Over-under in this one is 45, and the start-sit decision is pretty easy. For the Bears, you're not starting Andy Dalton against the Rams. You are sitting him. We'll see what happens. We'll see if Justin Fields makes an early appearance. I think Dalton does make it through this game, but he's going to give the Bears stuff to think about because I don't see a good performance coming from Dalton against the Rams in LA. And then for the Rams, you got Matt Stafford, and he's a start. I know the Bears defense is strong, but I'm not letting that scare me off of Matt Stafford. He's an elite talent with an elite coach, and he's got elite weapons. So he's someone I'm starting maybe with not as much confidence as I will when he's playing some of these NFC West opponents like the Cardinals, like Seattle, some of his easier matchups. But I'm still willing to start Stafford in this game. I'm excited to see what he can do with the Rams. And last but not least, we have the Ravens at the Raiders. Monday Night Football in Allegiant Stadium in Vegas. The over-under in this one's 51. And Lamar is a must-start in this game. He's another one of those guys you're starting every single week regardless of matchup. But I think this is a really good matchup for Lamar. And then on the flip side, Derek Carr is someone who is slept on time and time again. People don't give him enough respect, but he's still a sit in this matchup against the Ravens. He will be streamable at a lot of times this season, but it's not going to be here in week 1 on Monday Night Football. So Lamar is a must-start. Derek Carr is a sit. And that is going to wrap up quarterback start sit for week 1. If you have any additional questions, drop them in the comments down below. Again, join that Discord, chat with me and Stef, hang out with us, ask us your questions throughout the season. We'll talk start sit, we'll talk waivers, we'll talk trades, anything you got. We got Dynasty content in there as well with a great community. But again, leave a like and a subscribe if you like this video. We'll be bringing it to you all season long. Again, this is Alex with Double Move Sports, and we'll see you next time.